Test of the Instant Infrastructure USB on a MacBook Air. Turn the power on and hold the option down. This USB stick has a Chef and an ISO from Ubuntu and a few customizations, but both of those files are original on there, unmodified. Everything's done via recipes that are open. So I just choose my default grub options. That file's been generated via the IIUSB cookbook. Some of the customizations of the IIUSB plus IIUbiquity. Ubiquity is the installer for Ubuntu. Customize the initrd. So in this case we have a Chef client running at a very early stage and creating HTML and background and wireless changes. So as soon as that finishes, we go into loading X. Since we changed the background very early, that's been changed. And we see the network was able to connect with the passphrase. That was nice. Chef client will run again at this stage now that we have network and update. For now, we're just updating another file, the part of the presenter as it goes forward. There's a few options it asks here about do we want to format. I'm glad we ask at least one question and make sure that we install to the correct disk. So those will continue now, and this will not ask any more questions until it reboots. So what it's doing now is copying some files, basically whatever was in the original install for Ubuntu. It's going to copy those files over. It's going to install some new software. One of the things that I needed at my work was to create a training laptop. So I pulled in some of the instant infrastructure creation utilities and a combination of a repo for building our training system so that our staff can easily create a new training computer. But there might be other fun uses for this, since we have the ability to run Chef at such an early stage, possibly doing it all over the network instead of via USB for things that can do Pixie. You'll see these two screens, we've customized it. That's from those two different Chef client runs we've done already, one at the initrd stage and one at the early one. When it's successful, there's also another Chef client run, and the last Chef client run is actually going to occur in the target system. So we've already partitioned, and Ubuntu's installed, and we're going to run Chef client one more time on this boot. With the IIUbiquity, what that'll do is copy over the Chef repo that's on the USB stick and put it in the root's home directory and give us some first runs that'll let it start up automatically on the next boot. So you don't need the USB stick anymore, and you have the repo. Eventually be able to recreate another USB stick with that repo on there without having any technical stuff. It's almost finished. It's going to copy the files, and it's going to do another Chef run. When that Chef run occurs, it'll switch over to another VT, so we can see that happen. Those are mainly there to really demonstrate what's going on under the covers. I don't know whether that's going to be there long term. Also trying to figure out if I can create the USB sticks with enough cache of all the files needed so that no network is required at all. Currently there's some network requirements. That might be more interesting when we have like a hosted Chef or another Chef server that it's contacting to save information about the hardware at an early stage and waiting for the Chef server to say, hey, you need to install Windows with this particular role based on some type of orchestration or provisioning. But for now, this is an okay approach. So, not much going on the screen right now. We'll move the mouse over. See, it's still installing. It's grabbing a few files. tried to figure out how to reduce the packages. I could have like turned off the network, I guess, and it would have sped it up a little bit. We have a pretty decent internet connection, but depending on the hardware, like I have another box that's our primary target, and it has an NVIDIA card in it. So based on that, having the hardware having NVIDIA, I actually installed different packages in the last Chef client run, and also update the grub config to have the right parameters so that it can boot on that hardware. It's getting close. It's configuring the target system. Oh, and installing packages. This takes a second. It's kind of annoying to have the skip button there with nothing. Oh, and the darn lang packs. I think we can skip that. Skip. Still configuring hardware. I've actually timed the whole thing. We're at 6.5 minutes. It's finally updating Initity. It's getting really close to the end, so that's one of the things that... Oh, and there's my batteries low on the computer. I haven't plugged it in a while. I was trying to do completely hands-off, but we'll go ahead and attach some power. So bootloader's coming. Grub gets installed. One thing I thought about was being able to boot the stick and have it run a Chef client run on a local USB backstored Ubuntu install, so that you could boot the stick to install to the stick, to run Chef client in that boot off the stick to create another boot. So you could do everything off the stick again and again, but I'm not sure if that's the right track or not. It's all just ideas and playing with things. Getting close, hopefully. 7 minutes. This runs a lot faster. This is a 4 GB of memory MacBook Air with an SSD, but it's a little older than the my primary station, which is 4 cores or 4 processors, i7, 32 gigs of RAM, and 2 SSDs. Installation logs, that's where it runs Chef Client again. So this is Chef Client on the target system. Success. Oh, we had an error. That's because Run Chef Solo wasn't there. Oh, we'll see if it works. So I had an error in my recipe for that. So that last run would have gotten rid of that error as far as the sparse files. The main thing I'm looking for is, did it create the auto start for the Chef laptop setup? And it did, and they're there. So this laptop is now booted, hands off, and setting up for my ops master role to set up my workstation or my training laptop. So I hope you enjoyed this little introduction to II-USB, and take a look at the repo and give me a hand. Thanks heaps. Bye.